You've got the SpaceX Dragon capsule will be taking cargo soon and hopefully crew shortly thereafter. There's a group in England doing something called the Skylon, which is a single-stage-to-orbit spaceplane that they believe can carry about 10 tons. You got Bigelow, who'll be building his larger and larger space stations in the next dozen years. You've got the Google Lunar X Prize. That the next things to rove on the moon won't be probably U.S. astronauts. It probably won't even be Chinese astronauts. It's probably going to be rovers privately sent via the X Prize, the Google Lunar X Prize, and I think that'll be the next 4 to 8 years probably before that happens. Interestingly, I think you heard also that I'm currently the world's only private owner of an object on a foreign celestial body. I purchased Lunokhod 2, as seen here in this certificate of title given to me by the Russians. In 1993, I bought this on a Sotheby's auction, and people thought I was crazy, except that as the only owner of an object on another foreign body, it means that while no other person can make land claims on the moon, I believe I can, and I've actually retained a lawyer recently to write this up in more serious detail, because it came up recently as the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter began to take pictures of my rover on the moon, and so I began to be asked about what my claims were, and so I thought I'd better formalize my claim. So I'm actually going to make a claim to not only where my rover landed and the whole track of it, but every place that it's surveyed to the left and right, so any place that I've modified, improved, or well-documented my traverse across the moon, is I'm going to make a claim to. But it's clearly farther away, but the stage is being set for, once we can send robots there to send back pictures, we'd then be able to send robots to build habitats or collect fuel and oxygen, eventually people, eventually habitations. And then, of course, and by the way, I think everything all the way, including the moon, can be tackled now by private industry. I don't think we need much help from the government, although we do need some. But the government, I think, should really be spending its focus and its time is on either asteroids or Mars or things considerably further afield. But I still think private industry can play a big part in that. And I don't know if you guys know that, I know most of you know Stephen Hawking, but we had a great joy of flying him on our zero-G plane a few years ago. And he is a huge proponent of not just human space travel, but also humans inhabiting space and worlds beyond the Earth, if nothing else for the survival of our species. And I fundamentally agree with that there's many, many great reasons to go, as Stephen Hawking has often pointed out. And so, in any case, I would like to think that you guys are probably going to be the first across the bow. I mean, you guys are the smartest, best trained, most entrepreneurial, probably most interested people in things like this and playing a part in this or going yourselves. And so, hopefully, if you weren't already convinced that it's closer than you thought, maybe you are now. So thank you.
You have me thinking, how much would you pay me for a photograph of your Lunokhod for, do the survey of the land and the moon?
You're going to go there and take it yourself?
Exactly, with the Google Lunar X Prize.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you have more time, I'm sure everybody here would just love to have a conversation with you, and I have to warn you, they'll stay as long as you can stay up. So everybody, questions?
Happy to stay. Yes?
Sorry, describe the toilet situation.
Oh, the toilet. Okay, you asked for it. Close your ears now if you don't want to hear graphic detail. So the interesting thing about using the toilet in space, there's a few fun foundational issues first to understand. One is that here on Earth, when you move around and you're modal with your body, it helps your GI tract move. And so maybe on average people go to the bathroom, you urinate probably multiple times a day, you defecate maybe once a day, maybe statistically. Well, in space, since you're not moving, you actually don't need to go to the bathroom nearly as often. So you only go to the bathroom every 3 or 4 days. But when you need to go, you really need to go. Okay? Hold that thought. Now let's describe the operation of the toilet. So the toilet is basically a vacuum cleaner that has one nozzle you can urinate into, which is no problem, and but then has a separate solid waste receptacle. This is the problem. The way it works is there's basically a beer keg, aluminum beer keg bolted to the floor, and on top of that is a shoebox-sized toilet seat. And when you lift the lid on that toilet seat, there is a Coke can-sized hole in which is put a plastic bag, basically, with a rubber band on the top of it, Coke can sized plastic bag goes down and has perforations in the bottom of the plastic bag. The vacuum cleaner is hooked up to the bottom of the beer keg, and the theory is that any solids that come out of you, or you might release in the air, M&Ms or something you might release above this, the vacuum will pull through airflow any solids nearby into the plastic bag, and it'll be held at the bottom of the plastic bag. And when the plastic bag is full, you can remove the rubber band at the top, which will seal the top of the bag, and then that whole bag will fall into the beer keg, where it will remain until the beer keg is full after 3 or 4 days of people using it, in which case you then eject that beer keg into space, so it becomes a shooting star for everybody to see, and you put it in a fresh beer keg. Okay? That's the way it's supposed to operate. That's the theory. But of course, you can't practice this on the ground, because in fact, you're trained to turn all the equipment on and off, but you never get a chance to rehearse it. You know, you don't practice, because in fact it wouldn't work the same on the ground anyway. Because here's the experiment that I would describe to elucidate how and why it would fail. Imagine here on Earth, tonight perhaps, when you go home to brush your teeth tonight, take a tube of toothpaste, and if you were to hold it horizontally and squeeze it, what would happen? Well, the toothpaste would come out of the toothpaste tube, and it would bend over due to gravity towards the sink, and eventually enough of it would be out of the tube that gravity would pull a chunk off, which would fall into the sink. Right? Well, if you do the same experiment in zero gravity, you would squeeze a tube of toothpaste, some would come out. If you stop, it'll just stay there. You squeeze some more will come out. Stop, it'll stay there. If you try to pull the tube of toothpaste away, it all comes with you. Okay? So now, keep this in mind when you go to use the restroom. So, you know, you've been trained. No one's told me this metaphor beforehand, right? And by the way, how to use the bathroom in space is the most common question kids ask astronauts. It's also the most common question first-time astronauts ask experienced astronauts. Still, nobody tells you this. So you go to use the restroom for the first time. You situate yourself over the toilet. You begin this process, because you really got to go, don't forget, a lot. And in about 3 seconds, you